So you've probably seen the title and you've already freaked out. You're like, Brian, what is going on? This is Tech Yes City. I usually never see builds above $1,000. And let me explain, let me tell you the story. We've got here Ryzen Threadripper. We've got a loan sample sent in from AMD. This is the 1950X, absolutely incredible, 16 cores, 32 threads. Cougar sent over this lovely case. This is their flagship Conquer. And then of course I have the 1080 Ti. I've got some other parts. Gigabyte sent over their Aura 7 gaming motherboard. And I thought we're gonna put together one massive build that is just gonna conquer the world. Come on, we all knew that pun joke was coming. Welcome back to Tech City. This is Brian coming to you guys today with a $3,700 build. I believe this is the most expensive build I've ever done on the channel. If you're in Australia, the good news is that it's an extra $1,500 over that US price, so 5,280 Australian dollars. Now getting straight into the parts, this build is centered around this puppy here, Ryzen Threadripper, 16 cores, 32 threads, absolute behemoth. You can overclock this thing. I've also got a review coming for it very shortly where I compare it against the 7900X, but basically what you need to know is this thing is designed for a workstation. When those applications can utilize those 16 cores, 32 threads, then this thing will indeed do what the name states. It will rip the threads. Threadripper is here to stay. It is a beast for productivity. Though for the graphics card, we're going with the NVIDIA GTX 1080 Ti. This is the MSI Juke variant. I absolutely love it. It's my favorite variant of all 1080 Ti's. It looks very sleek, it's really quiet, and it performs really well too. For memory, we've got 64 gigabytes, 4 16 gigabyte sticks from Corsair, Vengeance LED memory, on a motherboard from Aorus. This is the Gaming 7, and this thing is literally lit. It looks amazing with the LEDs that actually match the case theme that we're using today with the orange and black. And then of course powering all these components is the Seasonic Focus Gold 750 watt power supply. Seasonic makes some of the best power supplies in the business. This is modular as well, fully modular, so you only use the cables that you need. It really takes away from all the clutter inside the case and really gives you a clean looking build with all black cables too. And for storage, we've got a 960 gigabyte Corsair Neutron XTI, and for backup, we've got a 3 terabyte Western Digital Blue. Now, generally, if you aren't hooking into a network attached storage, then you probably will want more storage on top of what I'm putting in this build here today. And then for cooling the 1950X, we're going with the H100i V2 cooler. Now, out of the box, this thing will support Ryzen. So what you have to do is take off the original bracket included in the box with the H100i, and then take the bracket that's included with the Ryzen Threadripper, and then replace that and then mount it onto your motherboard, and you should be having happy days. Though this whole time I've been talking, your eyes have probably been wandering to the left of me or to the right of you, depending on how you look at it. And this is the Cougar Conquer. This is their flagship case, 300 US. It is expensive, but it is just amazing to work with. Really high-end case, worthy of that price tag. Though with all that aside, let's start building this thing and then benchmarking it. And also all the parts that I've used in today's video will be in the description below, so be sure to check that out if you're interested in any of the parts that I've used here today. So after a few hours of intense building, we've finally completed the Conquer rig. Here it is in all its glory. We're going to take it outside soon while the sun's still out, get some nice B-roll shots. And also on that note, with high-end builds, you generally would want to get cosmetics to match that performance. This thing is insane. We'll show you some benchmarks very soon, but also we've got the cosmetics to match that. I mean, if I was going to go out and buy a brand new car, for example, I'd want that thing to look just as good as it goes fast. So we've now set up the Cougar and we've got PUBG in the background running at 4K high settings with the 1080 Ti. However, one problem I did come into was that the LED Vengeance memory, I had to actually pull 2 sticks of this out of the Gaming 7 Aorus X399 motherboard because of the compatibility issues. At the moment, this is an infant motherboard, it's in its infant stages, so it will need a BIOS update to bring out the full 4 sticks of 16 gigabytes of memory to get 64 in total. However, with that said, let's take a look at the performance figures of a few games at 4K, and then we'll do some productivity benchmarks for you guys. So there were the games done. 4K resolution, this PC handled those games absolutely fine. It was a really good experience, really smooth. And what we got behind me now is an Adobe Premiere Pro project, 4K over half an hour of footage. We're gonna click the render button time and see how long this thing takes. So this thing for 4K video editing in Premiere Pro, it scored 48 minutes to render over 35 minutes of footage at 4K. So that is insane. Really good performance if you're looking for something for productivity. But with those benchmarks, I'll run for you guys Cinebench and POV Ray, give you guys a little tease without giving too much of the 1950X review away. So there it is, guys, the Threadripper build. It is finished and it is performing so well in productivity benchmarks. Also, the gaming numbers are really good at 4K too, so this thing will do really well in the latest titles. And of course, where it shines best is doing workstation applications like Adobe Premiere Pro. If you're video editing like me, it's going to kick some absolute tail. However, a build like this is doing really well because of the parts included. That Seasonic Focus Gold power supply, that thing is modular, whisper quiet, and didn't miss a beat. Also, a good thing about it is the black cabling included. I don't have to go out and get cable extensions because they look really sleek. And of course, I can get rid of all the extra clutter in the build itself. And of course, for the cooling, we're going with the H100i V2 from Corsair. This thing did a good job. It handled the CPU at 4 gigahertz only just. It was getting pretty warm on the radiator. Also, the VRM was getting pretty hot too. However, if you want to step up cooling on Threadripper, you can. There's an additional 4-pin connector, and I would suggest getting a 360mm rad if you wanted to take this CPU higher than 4 gigahertz. And for the graphics card, the Duke from MSI, the 1080 Ti, this thing was remaining whisper quiet and putting out really good numbers at 4K gaming on high settings on even some of the latest titles. Now the last part in this build that made it complete is the Gaming 7 from Aorus. This is the X399 motherboard. It is a little bit expensive, coming in around 360 US, so it is a expensive motherboard. But if you're going to get LED lighting and you're going to do it right on a motherboard, then this is how it should look in my opinion. This board just lit up so well. I'm not really a big fan of lighting on cosmetics with motherboards, but this thing did such a good job. If you want it done properly, this is how you should do it. And of course, the cosmetics isn't the only good thing about this motherboard. When it also came to the performance of the board itself in the VRM and the BIOS control, this thing did really well too. You've got the option to control load line calibration settings and also control the switching weight on the VRM and how many phases are being used. Of course, with the performance figures, I only gave you guys a taste of what this thing can do, especially the 1950X. I will be uploading a comparison between the 1950X and the 7900X very soon, so I'll put the link up here when that video is available and in the description below, where I'll be showing all the productivity scores that I've tested and also including a lot more gaming benchmarks that are both at stock speeds with this CPU and overclock settings versus the 7900X with the same deal. So one thing that did annoy me, however, about this build and the 1950X in general is the Ryzen Master software, which basically when you install it, you can control things like clock speeds and also change between creator mode and gaming mode. Creator mode is out of the box settings, 16 cores, 32 threads, great for productivity, though when you turn on gaming mode, you will get slightly better performance in games. However, with that said, you will halve your core count and threads down to 8 cores, 16 threads, essentially making it a Ryzen 7 1700, which in ways you have to restart your computer to change it to gaming mode and then restart it to go back to creator mode. So in ways it wastes that time that I'm sure a lot of people are going to spend the extra money on in order to buy the 1950X when they're doing things like rendering videos. So now, of course, I know a lot of people are going to be asking about this case behind me. This is Cougar's Conquer case. It's their flagship model. It comes in at $300 US, so it is quite expensive. If you're in Australia, it's 350 AUD. However, it is good to see that Cougar is pricing their parts internationally quite fairly. So that is a good thing about Cougar in the case behind me here. Now, it is all metal construction with tempered glass. Very high quality, and I will say it does take a lot of time to build in because you do have to be careful with all the parts as to not scratch the metal, for example. And of course, whenever you're working with tempered glass, you should be taking extra care as well. Now, with this all metal construction, it is of course high quality, but it is very heavy too. So keep that in mind. If you want to cart it around, I recommend holding onto the top panel here that is detached from the tempered glass itself. However, when it came to working with this case, it was amazing. It's so spacious, it's so easy to work with. The instruction manual is so detailed. You can do it all in a couple of hours. It took me about 3 hours to do this build from start to finish. Cable management on the behind of the case was extremely easy to work with. However, besides the awesome construction, Cougar have also thought out this case very well. You get 3 included fans, which light up orange and go with the orange and black theme of this build. They're also very quiet and quite powerful. Now, at the front of the case, you can mount a 240mm rad, and up the top of the case, you can mount a 360mm rad. So there is options for custom water cooling, or if you want to put in an all-in-one. At the top of the case, you get a touch power button, audio jacks, and USB 3 included too. All the parts are marked out with ease, and the top of the case even detaches for ease of installation of the water cooler. Although this case may seem perfect thus far, there was actually 2 little things that I didn't like about the Conquer. The first being the drive mounting options. They include a bracket which supports 2 SSDs 2.5 inch or 1 3.5 inch drive bay. Now for me personally, I always love to use a combination of SSDs and hard drives in my builds. I believe it's a perfect balance of speed and value for money in terms of storage. And with this case, what I found was I had to actually ghetto mount 1 SSD on the back and 1 hard drive on the front. So typically I'd like to see them include the option to mount 1 hard drive and 2 SSDs on this bracket included. The second pet peeve, of course, was just the sheer size of the box that it comes in. Now, I understand that it's tempered glass and it has to be packaged really well. And of course, it is packaged really well. It's just that it was massive, and the case itself is really big too. Don't let the eye fool you. This thing is bigger than a typical ATX case, especially lengthwise. Height-wise, it's about the same as your standard cases that you'll come into. Just lengthwise, it is very long and it will take up a lot of your desk space. Anyway guys, that's about it for today's monster Threadripper build. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then be sure to hit that like button and let me know in the comments section below what you think of Cougar's Conquer case. I've actually also got their Panzer case as well, which comes in at $100. That's tempered glass too. I've heard really good things about that, so I look forward to bringing a build in that. But I must say, for a flagship case, this is definitely flagship and is worthy if you want something that is just simply premium. It has all the options, it has awesome included fans, all steel construction with tempered glass, so it's gonna look badass and it's also gonna perform really well in the real world. Anyway guys, that's about it for today. I'll catch you in another tech video very soon. Peace out for now, bye. Check out all those cores and threads, damn! However, with a PC like this, you're probably going to be hooking into a network attached storage anyway, hence why we don't have a whole lot of storage, but we've got some real good storage. Focus, Brian, focus. Focus, go.